Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear me by now. Today we are beginning our second training webinar session. My name is Alec. It's possible you have spoken to myself in the help desk team, and I'm joined by Sarah here today as well. Just a bit of housekeeping before we begin. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the chat window for Sarah to note down so we can address them at the end of the session. Until then, sit back, relax, and let's go through this. So first of all, what we're going to be looking at is the contents of our session. Today, we're going to be covering the following: custom reporting, email schedule, the service alerts, and the components of the fleet systems module that we have as well. At the very end of this, we'll have a Q&A session addressing questions that are spoken in the chat window or anything that comes up at the time. So the first thing that we're going to be addressing is custom reporting. So this can be used to change features of currently existing reports. For example, there are too many fields or not enough. This is where you're able to make those changes. Or you'd like to rename or reorder any of those particular fields as well. We will go through this also. This can be, any custom report that is created can be limited to the user that you create it on, or for everybody to use that has access to that account. There are varying reasons for this. For example, myself in research and development, there's something I'm testing specifically. I don't want to clog up everybody else's reporting feed with what I'm doing as well. So that's one possible reason for that. All custom reports can be found in report v2. So if you're not able to see it in v1, do not worry, it is in v2 for you. The next thing we're going to be looking at after that will be email schedule. So the idea behind this is automatically sending alerts or reports to a number of emails that you can designate as well. You can give it to an entire department if you wish, or whatever would be most suitable for your business. Schedules can be as simple or as complex as required, and use as many or as few reports as you require as well. Having said that, we can also have a preset of different date and time ranges that they can be sent at, such as daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, etc., or every second Tuesday or every third month, or whatever would be suitable. We do have the, facilities to do so in this interface. We can use any report in our system for the email schedule, including custom reports you create. So we're going to be doing that today as well, just to continue with some continuity there. And the idea behind our email scheduling system is to save time by automating a reporting process that you would need for, say, odometers or payroll, whatever that may be. The next one we are going to look at is service alerts, where last week's session looked more so at geofence and event-based alerting. The service alert part is based upon odometer or hour meter or date time ranges. This will become a bit more obvious how this works when we go into the system and when we have a visual as to what or how this works. This can be set up again at whatever frequency is required in terms of frequency for odometer, distance, for hours spent, or daily met. Again, automating this process to keep on top of services is probably the main motivation behind this feature. And again, we will be going further into it just after this introduction. The last area that we're going to cover today is going to be the fleet systems, which has four main components. The first one of which is availability status, which is simply designating what that vehicle is currently doing and how it works. The service schedule, so this is a bit more of an in-depth system for alerts and scheduling based. This will make more sense once we go through these. The service report, so this is an optimization report based on how often the car is used, a vehicle is used versus its downtime or any time being used for repair or service. And fleet reminders, so this is also an internal calendar and email system that we can utilize as well. At the very end of these four modules, we'll be doing a Q&A with everybody here. So please keep all your questions till the end or have them in the chat window and we'll address them then. I may answer your question as we go. So just keep an ear out as well, but we will be going through the entirety of the chat window or anything like that afterwards. Any questions you think of after this session, not a problem. Just send them through to ourselves, particularly my team. Then we can address them as we go from there. If you forgot a feature explained today or in the previous session, or you missed one of those, not a problem. We have these recorded for you guys to look at later on at your convenience. And if there's any suggestions of any features you'd like to see next time, or something that you'd like us to explore a bit further, let us know, either in the chat or in an email later on, and we're happy to go through those as well. So this brings us to the beginning of our session, where I will go to our next screen. So at the moment, we're looking at my personal research and development site with our installers vehicles being shown here. So to begin with, Report V2 is where you would want to go for the first two sections, and then Manager. We'll click on those and wait for that to load up. The Manager has two designations or features in V2. The first one being that of custom reports, and the second that of the email schedule. So this section here, the Report Manager, is where we'd look at custom reporting. As you can see, there's a couple there already that we have. As I mentioned, this is our research and development portal, so we do play around with different features and what it can do. So what I'm going to do is create a new report just in the top list here. The first thing to do is report category. This will always be standard. The standard reporting is where you get all your reports from. The report type, as we can see here, if we do this drop down, it will show all the reports that we have available to us. This is including of V1 as well. What I'm going to do is use a journey. They're nice and simple, and I think would probably be suitable to explain the features of this. Name. We have the custom report name. We can call this whatever we like. However, if you do leave this blank, the default report's name and add custom onto the end. So in this case, journey and custom would be its next designation. In this case, I'm going to do webinar test 1 as our name, and access level. So I made mention of this in our introduction. You can have it so only your user can see this report, if you're the only one who's going to be using it, or you can let anybody who has access to that account to use it as well. In this case, I'll leave it as only me, so I can not clog up everybody else's view. Then we go create. You'll notice a number of things just occurred on our screen here. So the first thing we see is the name and the based on in the top of our screen there. So the webinar test 1 based on our journey report. The next designation we have is two sets of tables, being our active section and one of them being our inactive section. So on the left we have, and these are the different areas you will be able to see when you run this report. So there's quite a few there. This is probably one of our more simple reports, so there isn't too many to manipulate in this case. I have a number of things we can do in this section. The number of things you'll notice is it's a couple of icons next to each section. So for example, number, vehicle, etc. And they both have a and an eye icon. What these both mean, for example, is we have the number, and I guess that's the number in the list there. We can go to this tag, and this is applicable to all of the features, is show, first of all, or do not show. And we got a use filter setting. So if you only want to see a particular value or event in that field, you're able to filter that out. So we can see it works by greater than, less than, equal to, etc. Or contains, if you're getting multiple. Filters like this are usually used for durations or speeds, for example. I know durations for this kind of report would be, I don't really want to know anything less than 5 minutes drives. That's fine, not a problem. So what you would do, I guess a more suitable would be to go to duration itself in this report, use this filter, and go to less than the input value. So what this means is what's going to be shown in this section, 5. So any input is always going to be in minutes. So, okay, and which is a filter icon or a funnel. So this means there is a filter applicable to that area. Now what we're going to have a look at now is the eye icon. So you'll see some of them have the slash through it and some of them do not. The ones that do not are what's going to be visible on this report. The other ones that do are not going to be visible on the report but are available. So what this means is, one, if you're manipulating this report consistently or adding and subtracting different fields but you're not quite sure what you need, you can leave it in this column here and you're able to enable or disable when you see fit. Again, custom reports can be edited, created, deleted at any given time, so whatever would be most suitable for yourself. Another feature we have is taking other fields applicable to this report and putting them in, as well as being able to drag them out. So down your mouse button on whatever field you'd like, drag it over, so if you want to get rid of it as well. This can also be used to rearrange where you'd like parts of the report to be. As we can see here, I'm just simply dragging and dropping where I'd like these different sections to go. Now I haven't really put any order or thought into this. This is simply just to display which fields are which. And if you're having trouble searching through the lists of each of these fields, which can happen in the bigger reports, such as the position details, which has many, many different fields to choose from, you can use your search bars at the top. So if I type duration, I can find duration. If I type distance, for example, I can see there is one that's applicable to distance. Even though I didn't know it specifically, it'll show. So I'm going to save this report. And then we're going to go back. We can see at the very top there we have our webinar test number 1, which is the report we just created. There are a number of things we can do with this report that we've created. One is edit it, copy it, so we can make a copy and manipulate just a couple of different things if we want to keep them fairly similar, or we can delete it if we're not happy with it. Unfortunately, we're not able to else's reporting because that would be slightly invasive, so we are able to copy that and change it however. As you can see, I have the copy icon next to the other reports set by different users on this account, but I'm not able to manipulate them directly. So that's the majority of our content for the custom reporting. The next one I'm going to go into is our email scheduler. So what you might notice in the top right-hand corner of our report V2 and then manager, email scheduler is available. We're going to click onto that one and see what it brings us next. I will note, side note, that email schedulers are unique to the user. So it's not an account-bound system, rather that of you are setting your own schedule. Although you can email it to whoever you like from this schedule, just keep in mind that you're the only user who can see this if you set it up. At the moment, we have no email reports scheduled by myself at this stage, but we're going to have a look at how they work now. So there's a create button at the top center. I'm going to click that one. You'll see a number of areas pop up immediately. And what we're going to do is fill them out and go through a process and see how they work out. First one is report name. Again, I'm just going to keep this as webinar test 1 for continuity's sake. The email period. So what this means is how consistently this email is sent. So we have daily, weekly, monthly, etc. We have relative as well. So if we click relative, you'll see a number of fields pop up. As I mentioned, we can do this whatever you'd like, depending on your schedule that you're. For example, every 5 days, every 2 months, even particular weekdays that we want. We can do work days, rest days, or a custom, we can pick a couple at random. Relative time is a bit tricky in terms of what the report will show, but that's something I will just delve into in just a moment. For this one's sake, we're going to keep it the time you receive that report. So this is in 24 hours, so you're able to use the slider to put wherever you like. So if you'd like to get that at midnight each night, not a problem. We can do that for you as well. I think 7 was the default, wasn't it? We'll leave that there. Time zone. Now this is important. We have lots of different time zones because different states in Australia is probably the primary use for that one. So I'm going to use Melbourne as an example because that's where I'm based currently. And as you can see, it will give an estimated schedule. So as we have it set now, weekly at 7 AM in the Melbourne time zone, the next reports will be the 17th. You'll notice the weekly system ends on a Sunday. So the 17th is this Sunday, and every Sunday after that will be weekly. This is when the email is sent, not when the report is created. That's in the next section, which I'm about to go into. So the report category, again, will be standard. Okay, standard should be the only option you're able to see. And the report type is everything that we had the list of before. Now for our example, we did webinar test 1. As you can see, the custom report we made earlier is there. So if we click on that one, you'll see the right-hand side of the screen now populates with some areas to manipulate. Just before I get to that right-hand section, the last 2 features of the left-hand side are file format. So depending on the report type, you have different report formats. So spreadsheet and PDF are pretty blanket for all our reports. PDF just for something different. And the email list. As you can see, we have lots and lots and lots in our list, and so you are definitely able to send it to however many you'd like. If you'd like to add another email, you can do that at the very bottom here. Next, we're going to look at the report side of this email schedule. So it's in 2 sides, one being the email side and one being the report side. So usually, it's good to have the report correlating to what your consistency for reporting is. In this case, I have it weekly. So I'm going to do the past week. When it says the past week, this is done prior to that of when the email is sent. So in this case, every day before that Sunday coming up to the 17th, or whatever it may be. The start and end date of that report for the day is going to be shown here. So at the moment we have midnight to midnight, so the entirety of the day. We do have relative time as well. So what you can do is you can get it to send a report relative to different days and times previous. So what you'll have, for example, if you want to make it so it does the report a couple of days earlier, it is negative days. Is how that one would work. So it's 2 days less than what it's being sent as. Relative, as I said, is quite kind of tricky, and myself and others at the help desk team get this question quite frequently. But if you'd like us to walk you through that specifically another time, that's something we're able to do also. But and correlate these two as best as we can for the email period and the day. The next part we go to is devices. So in this case, we have 3 to pick from, being our installer research ones. Click all 3 of those. Merge data into one table. So what this means here is either you have all the tabs joined into one big table, or you have a different tab for each device. Now obviously this would depend on what would be most suitable for yourselves. But in this case, with just the 3 devices for the 1 week, we'll put them into the one table. Use historical geofences. Geofences last week. What this means is, if you have a new added in the meantime, you're able to apply that geofence to previous data. So if I add a geofence today, when this report gets sent to us on Sunday, and I want to use historical geofences, it means it will apply that geofence to everything prior to that day. Then the minimum duration as well. Now this is an advanced options section, as we can see by the title here. This is all different based upon which report you specify to be in your email schedule. So in this case, the minimum duration is 5 minutes. I'm going to leave that as that for now. And we're going to save. I need to select an email. let's go that one. Now if we go into our email scheduler, it has a list of what is available there. So it tells us the report name, the next time it will send, what time zone it's at, and the status. Status is going to say if it's failed or sent or whatever it may be. At the moment, it's just sitting there waiting till 17th of December, 7 AM. And that concludes our email schedule. The next section we're going to be looking at is service alerts. So where we looked at alerts last session, that was more so to do with the alert wizard and the manager and the history. Part I'm going to look at the moment is service. So again, alert and service. Now how these service alerts work, I touched on in our introduction. So they can be set by 3 different categories. One being by odometer, hour meter, and reminder. So a date and time that it will cross, and then it will send an alert to yourself. Now, I'll go to create new just to show the process for odometer. The alert name we will do is webinar test 1. Description, odo test. Again, this can be as specific or general as you like. For this instance, I'm just doing it for this demonstration here. This can be sent in 2 ways, either by email or by just simply our internal alert system. You'll see in the top left-hand corner, and we have the bell with the number next to it. Now, being our research and development, there's a lot of alerts going off for test reasons, so we have a list of 2,000 to get through. But this is where any alert would go to. So that would be service, whether that be geofence, whether that be events, or simply you're able to download reports. They'll all go into there. But you can send an email as well. So I'll click that as on, and we'll get to that in a moment. You'll see there's not much else really showing at this stage. This is because I haven't selected any vehicles. Keep in mind that service alerts aren't applied to all vehicles, and they are all individual. So if we check all, for example, you'll see in just a moment I get a table with all 3 vehicles in it. So how it works is the name of the vehicle, the device, ID, so you can identify which one it is, current odometer reading, service interval that's been set, and next service that's going to occur. Now, the that's when vehicles are updated or checked or whatever it may be, but you're able to organize odometer updates at any time. To work out how this works, that's possibly a feature we'll run in another webinar. If you do have problems with that in the meantime, please contact myself or anyone at the help desk team, and we can assist you in updating those for you as well. The intervals and the next services you're able to change those. So, for example, if I want to add another 0 to that one there, so we see 4 brakes, and I want to take off that one there, and I want to take those there. You'll see the numbers in the far right-hand column are going to be changing based on what intervals are being set. The next service, again, this is interchangeable as well. So you're able to change those, or it'll give you alerts based on all these. But this is our way of making sure they're specific. Or if you have some changes in that schedule, you can update that on the fly. If you'd like, you can have alerts when the schedule occurs. From 500 Ks to 20,000, depending on what you require. The next part is the email alerts. So what will happen, customer will be set by, customer means custodian also in this case, and those are usually by default just one entity on accounts. So what you would do is you'd have all 3 vehicles, go to an email example. You can add this email and you'll see all 3 of those vehicles are now going to be sent to that email. I'm going to cancel that one. Odometer is very much similar. Go to check all. In this case, instead of being kilometers, it's going to be hours. So we have hour meters running, and we can record this from the devices. So basically stating while the device is on, it will accumulate hours. This is more so applicable for, say, hours spent or machinery operated, for example, anything like that. So we have the service interval. Again, this can be manipulated to whatever you require, and this will reflect in the bars on the right-hand side. We have the show alert service before, and again, this is relative to what it would be. So instead of being 500, it's 5 hours or 500 kilometers, for example. And again, with the emails, if I turn that on, I'll have the same table as we had previously. I'm going to get out of that one. And the last one is reminder. So again, reminder, we open this, open all three, and we have a reminder. This is, as I mentioned, on a date. Give a date that needs to be addressed. For example, next Thursday, I want to have a look at something with these vehicles that I would like repeat again, we can set it to repeat every so often. So every day, every week, every 2 weeks, every 2 months, whatever we need. We'll go repeat every week, and we'll get it to remind me 2 days before as well. So this will simply say, hey, you have an alert with the alert description and the alert name for this vehicle. It's coming up in 2 days. Please address. Be used for example, servicing in terms of something booked, a particular date that the device needs to be addressed, or anything like that. Includes the 3 uses of the service alerts. The next part of our briefing will be the fleet systems. Fleet systems is a little bit more in-depth compared to our service alerts. So we'll go through each stage, starting with availability status. So in this case, we have in availability status this menu here. So at this stage, we have the 3, so all of them are available. We have 2 actions and their history we can show as well. So for example, if I go to Frank's car and say it requires service, we can say test service or webinar and submit. You can see now the status of his vehicle is down for service. We also have Keong's vehicle, which we're going to use for repair. We're going to test repair or webinar. Submit. So these are the 3 different stages that we can designate vehicles on our system to tell the users and anybody on the system what they're doing or what is occurring currently. If we want to see how long these vehicles have been down for or what their history is, simply go to history. We can see that we have different fields shown. So in this case, it's been my self-testing this exact feature. 31st of August, we could see the vehicle was down for approximately 44 seconds and then was available again. We can service, if we hide over this, it says test service as a default. If you go to today's one, for example, test service or webinar, as we just saw myself enter there. If I want to correct this status, and that will now finish that roughly a minute later that I've had it running. I want to do the same for Keong's car. You got to show us a history on that one. Looks like Keong's had a bit of a demonstration in the past. If we go to the top one that we just ran, test repair for webinar, we can see what user has actioned that status. The next feature we're going to go to in fleet systems is our service schedule. Now, service schedule is a little bit more of an in-depth version of our service alerts we just went through. If you go to Frank's car, for example, it will bring up a window on the far right-hand side. You can do regular services, and they can be per kilometers per hours or per days it's in use, the start date of in which we want to record this. We can do major servicing, and we can put that at a different interval as well. And this can be done depending on which vehicle it is. If we double click on a particular square, we got nothing there at the moment, so it won't let me interact. So if we go to Frank's car and we do the start date, do the major service, we'll do start date of next week, for example. Oops. gone too far. I want to do this every 2 days. So we can see in the grid just to the right of Frank's car that these blocks are now filled in. If you highlight it, if you hold your mouse over them, they will tell you which service it is indicative of. In this case, major service is the one being looked at there. And I said every 2 days just to fill up this table a little bit. I'll go ahead and turn that off now, so we're not spamming people with alerts. So that's a way of us giving out or providing a scheduled servicing based upon a number of factors. Again, they were odometer, hour meter, and days of operation. The next part of fleet system is service reporting. Now what this gives is a utilization report based upon the uptime and the downtime of a vehicle, and the percentage it was used, and the percentage of time it was down for as well. So what I'm going to do is just do the start and end of November. It's a month roughly. We'll go Frank's cards because it's already set. I'll get it to generate there, just to give you an idea of what it's going to be showing. So provided the information is updated and kept quite consistently in the scheduling system, you'll be able to see the utilization. So we have a start and finish, which is a blank, because at the moment, in this period of time, we don't really have any scheduling or servicing or repair of this vehicle. The downtime hours was 0 because it wasn't designated a value for that. Available hours, it was available all day, and 24 hours and percentage. Utilization, so it looks like the hours that vehicle was driven in those hours, and the utilization percentage as well. Now, this is going to be a little bit blank because Frank's car has not been under service recently, but we can see some utilization hours of the availability of Frank's vehicle. We can also make this monthly. So, for example, we have done, so let's go to, November again for consistency's sake. There we go. So we have downtime 0, number of repairs 0, and we have operating time, so roughly 43 hours in November, and we've got December being just beginning, of course, nowhere near that value. But again, this will reflect based on how the downtime and uptime of vehicles, provided that information is given into this system. And the last part of our fleet systems is fleet reminders. So, as I may have touched on in the introduction, reminders is an internal calendar system that can be used and can send emails externally and provide updates internally. I'll further explain what I mean by this. For example, this Friday, you'll notice it brings up an email-esque looking interface. So you have a description of a new event. For example, we would just do webinar test. Assigned to, now, different vehicles that it's looking at. So in this, Frank's car, as we've been looking at consistently and scheduling already. Calendar we're going to be working off is my calendar, so the one that's used internally. We can repeat this event if we wish as well. I'll leave that for now. The time period this will be sent by default 7 AM, but we can manipulate that as well. Again, this is more so a scheduling and a reminder saying, okay, there's an event. So similar to what you would say use in Outlook or event scheduling. Much similar what we have in internal systems for that. So we have a custom list. So again, this will just be one entity for your user accounts, and then we'll have different emails assigned to it. And you can click on those and bring them across, and that's who it will be sent to. You can give a custom email as well, saying, putting in different features. You can add reminders as well, saying 30 minutes beforehand of notification and an email. So what it means by notification is the top left-hand side of the interface. You have your notification bell. At the moment, mine's got 2000. but yours may be a different value. This is where it will send it by the notification. Email, of course, will be inclusive of those who have clicked to be part of your list there, and you can add emails as well. Let's save that for now. And as we can see, we're there. So if we click on that event specifically, we can see that is who it was sent to, and this is what we have going on here. Just going to delete that one so I don't email all those people. And that would conclude our sleep reminders area there. So what I'm going to do now is pass this on for a Q&A or anything that you'd like me to look at specifically, or if there's just any questions in general that you had for our system, more than happy to go through those as well. So fire away in our chat box on your screen there, and we will address anything that you'd like. I can see Navita has a question for getting driver behavior, for example, harsh braking and that sort of thing. So a good question. So how we would go about this, we have a report designated for this called an RAG, or a red, amber, green report. This can be found in V2 and View. So I'll wait for that to load there. So driving behavior, as I mentioned, this G report. So I'll have a look now for you. Just a moment while I look for it there. As I mentioned, our research and development is a bit all over the place. There it is, RAG. So what will happen is, RAG is the red, amber, green. So what that stands for is basically you're setting values and a score, I guess, on different factors. In the case of driving behavior, or red, amber, green, that would be things like Navita has said, such as harsh braking, harsh acceleration, that sort of thing. So it's hard to do as an example in this case. I'm just looking to see if we have anybody clearly showing. Okay, use Frank as an example again. So we have the ability to designate which scores give what pass or fail, for example. If we go to generate, I've done the last week, and there's no data to display for Frank. That means he's done pretty well. Or we haven't got data for him. As I mentioned, this is R&D, so there's a lot of drivers designated that won't actually give data. But if you have drivers designated to your vehicles, the red, amber, green would be perfect for this. I'm sorry I can't give more of an example at this stage. I will just have to sort through the long list that we can get. Actually, I might do check. I'll wait for that to load. I have a question from Stefan. Do service alerts also appear on the service schedule? Service alerts on the schedule. It depends where they're created. So the service alerts, if you go through the alert and then service, do not appear on the schedule as they are created in a separate entity, if that makes sense. If you want them to appear on the schedule, they would have to be created and set in the schedule. The reason being, one, the service alerts were created before the fleet system, and two, there may be different values and different designations in each. So they are kept separate at this stage. The next question, items added to the service schedule, send an alert. Can these be maintained alongside other service alerts? I think I just answered that as well. So as I mentioned, they are kept separately in terms of their settings and their schedules and whatever it may be. If you wanted to, I would recommend using the service if you're wanting to keep a more consistent alert system and reporting as to when that would be applicable. The other good feature of that is you can designate multiple factors to trigger that alert. So as we saw, odometer, hour, and date were all, days used were all applicable for that vehicle. So that would have been, that a much more comprehensive alert. If you just simply want a reminder or simply want to have it roughly about this time an alert is due, then alert service would be absolutely fine for that also. Just going back to Navita's question, I have randomly selected some drivers in our list, and as you can see, we have different fields here for that RAG or driver behavior. So at the moment we have driver, what IDs used for them to scan on, if that's applicable, or if they're simply just have an RFID there. The last trip they made, the distance made, driving time, derive our scores from. So harsh acceleration, and then you see the scores on the right-hand side. Okay. Chris's question is, I only want to show a speeding alert for speeding 5 kilometers over the speed limit, not just 1 kilometer over the is possible. In terms of the speeding alert, how that's worked out at the moment, there is a algorithm used such as, I think it's 111 as a default is probably what you're referring to. This can be changed. That would require us to change a configuration setting, but it is very, very possible. I'd recommend yourself emailing myself or the help desk team. Best way of doing that is the report a problem side on the left-hand side, and I'll be responding to that pretty much straight away. But that would be a setting that we would have to change in a configuration sense, Chris. So again, yes, that's possible. Just let myself know using the report a problem on the left-hand side here, and I'll be able to stay. Gordon's question is, are additional in-vehicle sensors required to get the harsh acceleration, etc.? No, these alerts are set in all our device range. All our devices have an accelerometer, and they work out based on G-force and other algorithms how to do so. Or you haven't seen them as of yet, please let me know, but they do definitely exist in all our devices. So in short, yes, you would be able to get those in terms of a RAG report. But if you do have any questions, or if anybody has any queries or, I guess, problems or issues they've addressed that report a problem on the left-hand side, that will go to myself and the help desk team. 90% of the time it will be myself, so you'll get pretty sick of me quite quickly. Any other questions, please fire away. Looks like we've covered most of everything today. Again, as I mentioned, if there's anything people would like to understand more about, or simply have a question or a prompt, whatever that might be, as I said in my initial slides, if you can, feel free to let us know at any time. You have two different ways we can do this. One is the report a problem on the left-hand side. That sends it to all of help desk, so myself included, so we can address that for you as well. If there's something you want to do a bit of light reading about, we have the user manual there at the moment on the left-hand side, and that opens just an online PDF with an overview of different functions we have. We're currently in the process of rewriting this, so we should look out for a new version of that. But I guess we will call today call this session finished, and we will have this recorded at any time, so that will be uploaded very shortly also. Thanks everyone for attending. This has been good. Very good questions for everybody. And as I mentioned, if you have any further questions in the future, let us know and we can help you out there. Thank you everyone. Have a good day.